Hello and welcome to today's webcast, Step by Step to SASE, a guided approach to cybersecurity modernization. I'm Deb Snyder, Senior Fellow with the Center for Digital Government. Pleased to be here and excited to serve as your host for today's webcast. Thanks for joining us. We're going to have a great session over the next 30 minutes. We have just a few housekeeping notes right there for you on the screen. We'll email a recording of this presentation to all registrants within 48 hours. You can use that recording for your reference, or you can feel free to pass it along to your colleagues using the share widget in the console menu. Joining me today to discuss this topic are Keith Thomas, Practice Lead with Strategy and Services with LevelBlue. Welcome, Keith. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
And we also have Hani Braish, District Sales Manager, SaaS Sales Commercial with the U.S. Public Sector with Palo Alto. Welcome, Hani. We're glad to have you as well.
Thanks, Deb. Great to be here.
All right, before we get started, we have just a quick poll question for you, our audience, just to better understand the challenges that you're facing related to today's topics, so that our speakers can focus in on approaches that address your concerns. So what's the biggest challenge your organization faces in pursuing a SASE strategy? Is it legacy infrastructure and systems complexity? Limited IT or security staffing with expertise to back that up, budget or procurement constraints, or maybe it's understanding compliance and governance implications, or gaining leadership or cross-agency buy-in. So, Hani, Keith, while our audience takes a moment to submit their responses, from your perspective, what do you feel are the topmost challenges that government organizations are struggling with in implementing SASE?
Yeah, so Keith, I can take that first. Ultimately, we see these challenges across the board, right? And I think it's going to be a combination of a few of these things in most environments we see. Ultimately, we are struggling with legacy architectures in their complexity, right? And fragmentation in terms of the number of vendors that are being adopted today, right? So you see upwards of 20 plus security vendors in any given environment, and SASE can help cut that in half. So in terms of, the cost, you're talking about lower TCO, the complexity, definitely simplifying that with a platform, and ensuring compliance along the way. I think that's the biggest challenge as well in what you're seeing today is the compliance around it and making sure you're FedRAMP certified, you have tick compliance, you have whatever vertical you're in, have that basically compliance all tied, and I think Palo Alto Networks is very serious about that, so we could really help there. Keith, I don't know if you have any insight as well.
Oh, absolutely. That was great. And I do want to add on to that. I think there really is a security staffing and expertise shortage, especially around limited IT support. So, for example, I've got a customer, they were caught off guard by two security incidents that happened in 1 month. So they ordered a new SASE solution. And by the time, but they realized that their staff, they just couldn't help. We'll bring this on. So I brought in our consulting team. We delivered a white glove service and created a great experience for the customer. So this is how consulting from LevelBlue strengthened the relationship with the customer by building that partnership and helping them with that limited staffing expertise that they didn't have on site.
So it sounds like reducing complexity, getting those skill sets in there, and integration, if you will, across the boards. I know what you're saying when you say that fragmentation of security tools and solutions is definitely a challenge. All right, let's get started. Thank you, audience, for your feedback. So cybersecurity in the public sector, we all know it's complicated, right? Especially when you're balancing compliance mandates and legacy systems and growing remote work demands. For many agencies, Secure Access Service Edge, SASE, has become the goal, but getting there is complicated. And for all the reasons the gentlemen have laid out, that's the challenge. Many agencies are facing an uphill battle in modernizing their legacy security systems while they're balancing an aging infrastructure, security across hybrid networks, growing attack surface costs, operational efficiency. Traditional approaches are just no longer sustainable, and that leaves the agencies vulnerable to advanced threats, compliance risks, and inefficiencies. So today we're going to talk about steps that successful agencies are taking to build a strong SASE strategy to meet your agency's risk compliance, operational needs, and so on, and what to prioritize at each phase. and what decisions might matter most at key stages during modernization, and how to make that progress without overextending and overwhelming your teams, which is all, all important. I think that that's one of the big concerns. So Keith, Hanny, SASE has become a key goal for many organizations, but as we've said, getting there can become a challenge. Why is SASE so compelling for state and local governments? What hurdles make it difficult to achieve, in your opinion? Let's start with Keith, and then we'll go to you, Hanny.
Yeah, Deb, that's a great question. So SASE really is compelling because it aligns the industry's cloud-focused model that everyone is seeing that we're headed towards today. But many employees, they operate in a hybrid model. So even if it has even if an organization has just something as small as BYOD phones, right? Bring your own devices. Well, SASE will extend that security to those employees, and really it's regardless of where they are. They can be working remotely, they could be at the coffee shop or in the office. So having that security umbrella across the entire elastic WAN of this company or this organization is really compelling.
Hanny, what would you add to that?
I'd agree fully, Keith. I mean, I mean, my insight here is don't try to boil the ocean, right? I think a phased approach can yield visible results. I think engaging AT&T and a MSSP like them is really can give you visible results within 6 to 9 months, right? So, engaging with our teams, making sure that we understand any of the networking and security gaps, and then starting with really what we can make the most impact for and what will drive the best agility for you, the best for cost efficiency, and the most secure and compliant environment possible, right? So I'd say take it in piecemeal, and everybody's environment is different, as you mentioned, Deb. So there's no one size fits all for SASE.
Oh, I would so agree. And SASE's appeal lies in converging networks and improving security, both, right, to provide that consistent protection for users anywhere, improving agility, user experience, and so on. So it really can make a big difference. All right, so Hanny, coming back to you, obviously each organization will be at a different starting point in their SASE journey. So you need to meet them where they are, if you will. But if they're just starting, what are some of the key success factors that you would have them align with? What does a step-by-step roadmap maybe look like if you consider the major phases from assessing your legacy systems to a well-managed rollout?
Yeah, so I mean, in assessment, ultimately it's who you have in your environment today, what you're doing in your environment, what are the use cases that are supporting your business priorities, right? So looking holistically at what you're doing and how SASE can help drive efficiencies, help reduce your risk, help increase revenue, whatever it is in terms of your priorities, we can start looking at how SASE can do that. Ultimately, if you're looking to drive cost and efficiency, for example, like the unified platform is going to be the biggest point here with Palo Alto Networks. If you're looking at security and compliance, your roadmap has to definitely integrate zero trust principles. So, zero trust networking access is going to be a big part of that. Identity centric access control and data protection is even more so a topic of conversation now with AI. Right. So CASB is going to be involved in that. And then all across, you're going to have to look for, FedRAMP compliance and alignment. So I'd say, the threats are not going down, right? These vulnerabilities are only increasing with the complexities. And so the sooner we start looking across the whole environment relative to your business priorities, the better. It starts very high level, and then we can get quite deep in terms of what use cases that can help kind of drive your priority there.
So that legacy assessment that you talked about really spotlights where SASE can add the most value, or where upgrades might be needed, or some cleanup might be needed before rollout, sounds like.
Yeah, but even before that, it's, are your users remote? Where are they sitting? What devices are you using? What applications are you using? How are you securing those applications? Not just, in terms of access, but in terms of the actual data that are sitting on a laptop or in motion across these connections. So there's a lot to think about in terms of I guess what your workforce is doing, what contractors are plugging into your environment, what risks we see overall, and then we kind of go from there depending on what you have. So yeah, it's a mix. I mean, I'd call it a workshop or architecture design session or however you want to word it. I mean, we have to cover everything as early as possible.
Current state, do your homework. Keith,
Right.
what would you add to that?
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, right? Zero trust network access is one of the first things that you talked about. And really the way I see SASE is a success of an implementation of SASE is around providing a great user experience. And things like zero trust network access really do. So, because no matter where the user is, they still have that security that's protecting and covering them. And, no matter where an organization is in their journey, when they're going to go and implement a SASE solution, they need to first have a plan. We always work through the design work and making sure that it lines up with the business requirements, the applications that the business has to support the environment. Building, piloting is a crucial component of deploying a SASE solution, making sure that you don't just jump out into the deep end of the pool with the whole environment in full production. You want to test it, you want to evaluate it, you want to take those lessons learned back into the organization so that you continue to build on that great user experience that you're going to receive from SASE. So that's really the start of the roadmap to begin on that kind of a journey.
Yeah.
So as organizations are progressing, I want to dive a little bit deeper through these planning, piloting, assessment, current state kind of discussions and the workshop. I love the idea of a workshop so we can get it done in one day, but it's a good way to start, right? So as they're going through all these steps or phases, whatever we want to call them, what should they be prioritizing? Are there things at each stage, decisions, investments that matter most early on versus later on in the modernization journey? And how do these align with compliance and risk goals? Keith,
Yeah.
let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm going to fall back to it's about the user experience. And if you keep that user experience great across all of the phases, then you're going to show value. You're going to really bring the value of SASE into the organization. And where I like to start with my implementations is having a single source of truth for the inventory of users, devices, applications, and data, because that's where organizations should really invest their time early on, because then you're able to align with compliance, but more importantly, you can understand where the risks and the challenges are as you start to manage and roll out the solution, which gives you the ability to manage them more effectively.
So upfront, UX, identity and access, critical apps, data, regulatory obligations. How
Yeah.
about mid-stage priorities? Henny, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, again, it really depends on the user, right? At the end of the day, and the journey that they're going through, as Keith said, I don't know if I could say it better. I mean, because there's no, set journey or migration path, I'll just default back to making sure earlier on you have, your infrastructure mapped out, and then once you start getting those lists together, influencing kind of what is the art of possible. So what is the future infrastructure and what we're actually driving towards as an objective, right? And that could be, 12-month journey, but ultimately, like, as long as you're defining the milestones throughout, you could then have a roadmap for success in that approach. So
Excellent. So, Henny, I want to stay with you for a moment for this next question. I mean, we all know state and local agencies have a lot of legacy systems and technical debt. How can they best integrate legacy networks and applications into their SASE framework? Do they need to rip and replace, or is there a way to properly migrate and modernize gradually? What are your thoughts on that?
well, very simply, we can modernize gradually, right? There is no need to rip and replace. Our SASE solution enables a gradual, seamless integration of legacy SIM systems. It's not ideal to keep the legacy SIM systems, right? The more of a consistent policy across more form factors you can have, the less vulnerabilities you will see, right? So ultimately, if you're driving towards that platform, you can leverage the advantages of the platform more, right? The more elements of that platform that are in there. But there is no need to rip and replace, and we are very agile and flexible when it comes to legacy vendors and how we can kind of you know, take a phased approach so that it's not too heavy of a lift. So,
So more of a incremental overlay where maybe SASE services rolled out alongside the legacy environment, if that's what I hear you saying, and over time then shifted over and the legacy where shifted out, if you will. Keith, what are your thoughts on that? Are there specific things regarding addressing compatibility and data flow or avoiding disruption to critical services that they might pay attention to in your mind?
Oh, absolutely. SASE, first of all, in my opinion, a SASE solution is going to be complementary to the organization. And as Hani brought up, right, it's flexible enough to build that security around those legacy systems. So there really is no need to rip and replace. But organizations may also see SASE as a catalyst to upgrade their legacy systems. But if that's not possible, it's okay. So to your, we see things like IoT devices and legacy OT devices, these equipment that's 35, 40 years old out there in the environment that we have to protect. And turns out that SASE actually is a great model for segmentation and micro-segmentation of the networks to provide that additional protection. So not only are we complementing the existing technology, but we're actually adding an additional layer of security around those legacy systems that they probably didn't have before.
Better alignment really with, as you mentioned, Henny, zero trust, right? Principles impactful in that fashion. All right, so moving on, remote work, hybrid work, cloud, AI adoption, all of those things sort of are in the mix. So how does SASE help organizations secure assets better than traditional approaches when you think about those challenges? What changes for things like VPNs, cloud apps, and field offices under a SASE model? Keith, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And, let's talk about zero trust and zero trust architecture. SASE solutions cover such a broad amount of capabilities that are required under a zero trust architecture to protect that organization and the 5 pillars, which are users, data, application, network. And then you've got users, data, application, network, and monitoring and analytics, and of course all the cross-cutting ones as well. So what you're seeing is a zero trust architecture with your organization. You overlay that SASE solution on top of it, and what you end up with is a micro-segmentation, which protects the end users from or protects the systems from malicious actors. And then you also have your end users. They are now protected while they're outside the organization, while they're inside the organization. So you're securing not only the assets, but you're securing the endpoints as well. And zero trust network access allows that to happen because you can now take the users off of your network, off of those legacy VPNs. Now I'm presenting the applications that the user needs, which again kind of moves towards that zero trust, least privilege access, right? Giving people access only to the things that they need.
Thanks, Keith. Those are great points. Any additional thoughts on that? How to
yeah,
kind
I,
of think about a different way of securing?
Absolutely. I mean, look, each point solution that you're adding to your environment is going to add, on average 10 to 20%, let's say, operational overhead. And frankly, we're seeing a significant amount, a majority of public sector and government workers are now hybrid, right? You're not gonna be in the office full time. Even with the return to office, there's gonna be maybe a day or two that you're working for the office potentially, right? Your environment is going to be hybrid. The truth is, Palo Alto Networks builds our SASE solution for this reality today. So absolutely.
Mhm. So improved performance, easier management of distributed environments, consistent security. I mean, what's not to like, right? All of those things in one package. Very helpful. All right, so many state and local organizations are dealing with limited budgets and limited security staff, limited expertise. Keith, you mentioned that point. How can partnering with a managed security services provider or vendor in a SASE deployment help? What should leaders be looking for in evaluating their outside partners to fill these resource gaps and accelerate their journey? Annie, let's start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with MSSPs like AT&T, and together with our SASE platform, it will accelerate agility. Like, you'll provide continuous government grade security with them. I mean, you have another layer of protection potentially locally that can help check on stuff, follow up on stuff, have that relationship ingrained with the vendor. And it's really that party that it would ensure cost efficiency ultimately by filling any resource gaps that you might have in your environment and operations. So, Keith, you could definitely speak better to this, but ultimately, we can't do it without partners like yourself. So,
Yeah, Keith, you talked about resource augmentation, right? Let's talk a little bit more about that and some of the other benefits.
Absolutely. And part just to kind of continue on with what Hani said, we're an extension of where our partnership with Palo Alto is extremely critical because as the security environment continues to change, it's very dynamic. And so Palo Alto continues to build and evolve their technologies and their feature sets. So having a partner through an MSSP, we stay on top of those features and capabilities through our training, through our experience working with multiple customers. And so that really brings a level of knowledge that helps the organization that we're partnering with. So from our perspective at LevelBlue, we are an extension of an organization security team, and that's the focus of our partnership. So what leaders look for really should be in look for about three critical strengths from an MSSP. First, look at the expertise in the entire SASE solution, especially around like a Palo Alto. They have so many fantastic capabilities and solutions. You want that expertise across that entire portfolio, and that expertise also with integrating the capabilities within the customer's existing security environment. So we had talked about, you don't want to do a rip and replace. You want to make sure that you put this in and complement the existing security partner. So you need an MSSP that understands that approach to delivery. And also just be able to align with the business's unique security challenges and goals. Every one of them, every organization, depending on its industry, depending on its locations, regions in the world, they all have unique security challenges. And so the MSSP has the ability to help manage and understand those unique security challenges. Those are the MSSPs that you're going to be looking for as a partner long term.
My ear picked up on a couple of things that I would be looking for, right? That specialized SASE knowledge, absolutely, because likely that partner's guided other organizations through similar projects, and experience helps you avoid stepping in the pitfalls, right? To get, as you said, Hanny, proven architectures to help choose the right components, to configure them following best practices. All that's crucial, especially if you have a team that's new to SASE, that's just kind of feeling their way through. So that resource augmentation is super, super critical, as well as the training and knowledge transfer. Thanks for sharing all of those points. All right, so Keith, let's stick with you for a moment. The phrase overextend, right, comes up
Mhm.
fairly often. How can state and local organizations make sure they don't? How can they make steady progress towards SASE without disrupting operations, without overwhelming or overextending their teams? Are there strategies you'd recommend to score some quick wins and implement SASE without doing so?
Absolutely. And I said at the beginning of this talk, SASE should be based on enhancing the user experience. And when that's the focus, organizations are going to avoid disrupting operations. So that strategy to a quick win, really identify the use cases that will have the best strategic impact and start with a pilot group to learn and receive the feedback on their experience. It doesn't matter if you're starting with ZTNA or if you're starting with Secure Web Gateway or CASB. You want to make sure that you just understand the use cases, make sure they're strategic, and have a team that's going to go through the pilot test with you so that you can learn and grow, and then you'll always be able to enhance the user's experience.
Thanks, Keith. Any additional strategies you might suggest?
Fully agree with starting with kind of a critical or smaller user group or set, right? Even critical applications or subset of applications to start.
Mhm.
If you're looking at modernization, definitely like secure remote access for the mobile users is an immediate benefit that you can take advantage of with SASE. A little bit more on the use cases to Keith's point is if you're looking to really reduce complexity or lower your cost of operations, consolidating your SWIG or ZTNA for the remote users can show strong ROI. And then lastly, across like security and compliance, I'd say, deploying data loss protection or CASB to protect sensitive data will ultimately it will boost your compliance posture immediately without disrupting any network operation. So again, taking a piece of that depending on your priority there and overall keeping to the user experience to Keith's point, I think is critical. So.
Mm. I like the point of prioritizing your high impact areas, and when you roll that all the way back to the assessment, if you get that right up front and identify those pain points, if you will, those critical areas by solving that pressing issue, you get a couple of things. You don't boil the ocean, to your point, Hanny, right? And you also justify further investments because they're going to see that there's positive results coming out of your efforts. So all good things to keep in mind. All right, so Hanny, as organizations shift to MSSP cloud-based services in a SASE model, what recommendations do you have so that security and operations teams can maintain that holy grail of visibility and stay in command of their network and data?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we touched it a few times, right? And we could say it a few different ways, but ultimately a unified platform will ensure that your team's complete, maintain complete command with real-time visibility and agility, and have kind of government grade security oversight and cost efficiency, despite the MSSP managed service. So I'd say, definitely like the SASE solution is critical. And then, in terms of who you're working with, partner like AT&T will absolutely help bridge any gaps, extend the resources, be there for your teams, when absolutely needed. And so work with us overall to make sure you're ensuring those kind of key areas in your business.
Keith, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. We rally around delivering a SASE solution, and our SASE solution will become a central hub for the organization's security program and making sure that, all the different pillars of a zero trust are protected. And as Hani said, you want to have the best in class people around you, the best in class partners around you, and certainly making sure that that group aligns with your organization is critical to helping deliver that SASE solution and demonstrating the success that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Visibility is also key to coordinated operations and security. So that helps you really get the two parties, if you will, working together in teamwork. All right. So last question. I'd like you each to just take a minute to summarize any final thoughts and key takeaways that you want to leave our audience with. Some golden nuggets, if you will. Keith, we'll start with you and we'll give Handy the last word.
Sure. And at LevelBlue, we've seen firsthand how aligning SASE strategy with business goals really transforms those outcomes. And it's not just for IT, it's actually for the entire organization. So my advice is don't chase the tools, be smart about who you partner with, design with intention, and make every step forward in security about protecting your people and your data. And doing that with a great partner like Palo Alto, I've seen firsthand how this leads to success through several implementations and several rollouts and deliveries that we've done together as partners.
And Hanny?
Well said, Keith. Yeah, I mean, I'd say honestly, for state and local governments, for SLED, for anybody in the public sector, right, the future of security and networking is not about, doing incremental upgrades here and there and trying to assemble kind of disparate pieces to accomplish your overarching business goals. I'd say it's a big fundamental shift overall, right? Palo Alto Networks is delivering now, the only true single platform SASE that provides all of public sector, requirements, the operational simplicity and that your lean teams need, and the agility to brace AI in the future with confidence throughout the cloud. So all these transitions we're seeing, we're here to help you kind of go through that. We're your partner, and so lean on us, and I'm sure that with that partnership, you'll see success. So don't settle for less.
Okay, great. Thank you. All great recommendations for our audience. So I want to be respectful of our time commitments, so we're going to wrap it up here. In closing, I'd just like to thank you both, Hanny and Keith, for sharing your insights on today's webcast. I'd also like to thank Palo Alto and LevelBlue for making it possible to have this great discussion today. And of course, thanks to you, our audience, for spending time with us. We look forward to seeing you again soon at another government technology event. For Government Technology, I'm Deb Snyder. Stay safe and have a great rest of your day. Thanks again, Hanny, Keith. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Deb. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, Deb. Thanks, Hanny.
Appreciate it.